were sitting over in Tallahassee at election watch party, not knowing whether we were going to have Governor Ron DeSantis or Governor Andrew Gillum. And just imagine how COVID would have been different. Some businesses that are here today wouldn't be here today. Some of us that are here today might not be here today had we not elected somebody who was ready to lead on day one. And so my time in public service really started at a young age, because I was born into a home with a pastor who was a father, and my mother was a public school teacher, and so I joked that God must have known I needed a little bit more instruction, so he gave me a pastor and a teacher and parents, but he did a great job. Whatever good has come out of me is what it takes to that. I always say strong families are far more important than strong governments, and we lose that, we lose the society, we lose the culture. And so my public service started in the Navy. At age 23, I was in the Northern Gulf on the USS Mackinac on the deck, as officer of the deck, navigating through mine-infested waters. I helped as a small boat officer to destroy some of those mines with an EOD team. And then 20 years later, in Afghanistan, I was a mobilized reservist that time. Spent a year over there, leading a unit that was stopping foreign fighters from coming into Afghanistan. So people in the surrounding countries, Pakistan, Iran, Al Qaeda folks that were coming into Afghanistan that weren't native Afghans. We were identifying who those folks were and trying to get them out and identify how we could stop them. And in the military, I'll tell you that what served me well in politics is, apart from our veterans all love, have a deep love of country and put other people above themselves. And I want to thank the veterans. I know we have veterans that are in. Thank you for your service. Is we focus on the mission. And the problem with politics today, probably always been the problem, is there's too much ego, there's too much arrogance, and there's too much politics in politics. And so as a veteran, I believe the reason we were so successful in those 2 years when I was speaker is because I always stayed focused on the mission. I'm a believer in criticizing in private, praising in public, and figure it out, but don't let your personal ego get in the way of getting the people's business done. So we had a remarkable couple of years. What we call the free state of Florida was really during my time as speaker. And as speaker, you get to set the agenda and stop bad bills from going forward and really push some things that are priorities. And so we balanced our budget. We had record tax relief. We paid down a little bit of state debt the state has. We paid some of that down ahead of schedule. So I joke that nobody will ever confuse us for the federal government when we were doing up there, printing money, borrowing all the time. We had a lot of to do with raising teacher salaries and giving parents a right to send their kid to a school of their choice, universal school choice. We ended EEI programs at our universities once and for all. I could have stopped at that. I can tell you that they're still trying to do it, even though we cut off the funding and the programs. They've just changed the names, and they're trying to do it by different means, and as governor, I'll stop it. We stood for human life and passing the Heartbeat Protection Act. We ended transgender surgeries for minors. We said we're not going to let boys get into girls' bathrooms, and some of the craziness that we had. We put all that to an end when I was speaker. We made our state, I believe, the most not only veteran-friendly, but also law enforcement-friendly state in the country. And by helping with pay and benefits to make sure we're taking care of our law enforcement. And one of the worst states in the country if you're here illegally or you're trying to cheat in an election. We did just a whole number of things when it came to criminal justice. As a former developed division in the military, I was a state attorney in Broward County, and I understand the importance of standing up for our victims and going after criminals. So while I was speaker, we passed a bill to challenge old Supreme Court precedent, and once upon a time you could receive a death penalty for rape. And we've set that at age 12 and below to try to get that case up before the Supreme Court to revisit that, and if they do, we can expand that, obviously. So we passed that bill to reinstitute the death penalty in those circumstances. It has to go through the courts first, but it is going through the case right now. Unfortunately, it's going through the courts, and we did many things like that to really constitutional parity to protect our Second Amendment, making sure we're getting after that, and just a lot of other things. I'll focus on two things we did that people said you're never going to fix, which is the insurance market that was collapsing, and we had double-digit homeowners every year in, year out. Still not where it needs to be, but we got rid of a lot of the what I'll call garbage litigation, where we were 7 or 8% of the population, 7 or 8% of the homeowners' claims when people file a claim after a hurricane or whatever else. 76% of the lawsuits that resulted from those claims. Now we still have lawsuits. We've curved out some of the gamesmanship, And as a result, we've seen a lot of new insurers come into the state. If your homeowners is not going down, it's a good time to shop it because people are starting to reduce those rates now. And the story on automobile coverage is even better. That is definitely going down. State Farmers announced another 10% reduction in January 1st, and then bringing it by 20%. So, and auto rates are going up everywhere in the entire country except this state. So we're really proud of being able to go after a lot of special interest pressure, a lot of lobbyists to stop that from happening. And we also held insurers accountable and really just kind of focused on the consumer and what was right for the consumer and not getting caught between the lawyers and the insurers. And that happens too often. We also did a lot to protect children while I was speaker. So after we cleared out all this, call it the session of the century, very, very conservative first session, what are we going to do next? I started reading and having people bring me some of the harms that are happening to our kids online, whether it's online for our people, on and seeing stuff that I know see. And then the same thing with the social media platforms they're using. They're kind of hack the human brain, and they know how to keep a kid on for 6, 7, 8 hours a day. And it's destroying our kids. It's a place where more sex predators now reside as well. And I say that your kid is safer, and it's true in an urban area too, in a city park at night and midnight than they are online in their own bedroom while you're sleeping, because the technology that they have now, your 12-year-old thinks she's talking to a 12-year-old girl is really a 15-year-old man because of the technology and how they can kind of change their everything. So we set out to say, look, if you're going to use addiction as your business model, then we don't want minors under the age of 16 online. You've got to protect their childhood and defend childhood. And we did that, and it's one of the leading bills in the country. The online pornography piece of that was upheld in the Supreme Court this last year. We're still litigating against these big tech companies. And the shameful thing about it is, the bill works, they'll keep kids off the internet, but it just said if you have all these different things that are addictive, all of those have to be there. If you remove one of them, you're out of the bill, and you can have kids online. Just make it safe for kids, basically. They won't do it, they'll file a lawsuit. And so, I believe in the First Amendment as a veteran, but this is really about addiction. First, we need to not protect our children. And so, as a governor, I will go after human trafficking, which they never came before if anybody's coming after our kids. And so, I will just kind of wrap it up with that, with those 2 items that we did, and take some questions. But bottom line is those 2 years really were when the governor talks about pre-sale form, a lot of the things that he did legislatively. He signed those bills, the ones that passed them, and a lot of those was a lot of hard work by our House and Senate members, and I was kind of a head football coach and speaker to make sure that these things that were personally important to me got across the finish line, and so that's a highlight of what we did. I'd love to take your questions and talk about whatever you all want to talk about.
I know affordability seems to be like the hot topic right now, and the governor proposing the same thing with property tax. Actually, the opposite might work out. So, what is your take on the options that are presented, and what do you think would be good for a fiscally constrained county from that?
Well, let me take that first. Like the fiscally constrained county, like when I was speaking in my time to legislature, we're going to have to backfill that. The state's going to have to cover that because I know what fiscally constrained means fiscally constrained. So it's not an easy gift. If you look at the graph of like property taxes, it's gone like this and it's gone like this. That just statewide, every county's different. We've got a little budget report in the car that shows what everybody's grown over these last several years. But what is happening on property tax, insurance, healthcare, and many things, they're all going up faster than people's incomes can afford to keep up. And so fundamentally, we have to, and I just, on Thursday, I'm the only one calling for a immediate rollback, a legislative rollback, which is what we did in 2067. The fiscally constrained counties froze. It would be like freezing your 2025 rates and then rolling back. Historically, what they did previously was a 3% rollback for fiscally constrained, and then went up from there 5, 7, and 9%, depending on whether it was a county that tried to hold the line on taxes, taking the fiscally constrained out, but the non-fiscally constrained, in your county hold the line on taxes where you can roll back itself, or was it a Broward County or Alachua County that spends every penny that comes in the door, no matter what. And those counties can get a larger rollback than the other counties. And so that's what I proposed. And the reason why is because right now, if you haven't followed the House and Senate governor, the House and Senate governor fighting, it doesn't look like there's a lot of peace breaking out there because they have to pass by super majorities to put anything on the constitutional ballot. So to eliminate homestead property is new exemption. Whether you take save our homes and move it from 3% to 1% or 10% to 5% for non-homestead, you've got to have that on the constitutional ballot. It's got to be passed by both houses by a super majority. I don't know that that's going to happen. And let's say it does happen, you get something comes out that everybody likes, you're not going to see that on the ballot until next November 26th, and you won't see the benefit until November 2027. You have people that have been living on fixed income for 20 or 30 years in a home that are potentially going to lose their homes. And so I do not want to see that happen as governor. I think that's where the pressure points are, is seniors on fixed incomes, and then also your first-time home buyers, where I bought my house, first house in my 20s, and people who bought, at my age, were 20s and 30s, and now it's 40s and even 50s. You're buying your first home. And I don't want to see that. I want the American dream would be real for people like Brett, who works for me. And we talk in the car, obviously, a lot of people on the road, and he says the generation doesn't believe that they'll ever own it. That's not where we want to be, where everybody is. There's nothing wrong with renting. I rented before I bought. We want people to have ownership in life and stake in society. And so I think as a mid-range thing is that we need to look at those two categories. But what this would guarantee is relief right now. And your taxes won't go up and you get some rollback, and then they can figure out what they do. But if they go and either don't give it the ballot or it goes and doesn't get 60%, which I think is very likely, because you're funding your sheriffs, you're funding a lot of very important things out of that have to be considered. I just think getting to the full elimination, you could do it, but you're going to have to replace it with a bunch of other taxes people are going to not like either. And so it's like, you can get in my right pocket or you can get in my left pocket. But you can't eliminate a third of all property taxes and not start to affect all the safety and these other things. And so I will always do, whether it's politically advantageous or not, I will always do public policy that's good. It's good politics, that's great, right? You always want to do good politics, but I think what I propose is a short range is not going to break the bank anywhere. Again, the state will have to cover the fiscally constrained, that amount. But for the other counties, I think a 5% reduction is not going to break the bank. Some of them have gone up, 50% in the last 4 years. And so, well above inflation. Well, and what I've said is, look, population plus inflation, because I want to see some caps so that counties don't grow and their revenues faster than population plus our incomes. If you track that, people can afford it. And we all want nice things from whatever government does, but I think that's important. And then insurance, I mentioned what we did. It's progress. We need to do some more home hardening with my State Florida homes, protect people's homes, because that'll really go a long way to reducing premiums. When the hurricane comes in, it won't be that catastrophic event because our homes will be hardened, is I think another thing we can do. And continuing down that path. And on healthcare, I've been real clear, I think that we need to revisit Obamacare. I think we're subsidizing failure, but it's got to work for everybody. I think the problem with Obamacare is it's like the oven my wife and I just bought. It's got all these nice features, some of which we'll never use, but we're paying for it. And that's Obamacare. Everybody pays a little bit more than they pay more than they should in their health care policy because of all the federal mandates. If you start backing off that, you give patients some choice, you let the money follow the patient, and let them shop their health care, I promise you in Florida we can bring health care costs down and still give people good coverage. So, any other questions?
You mentioned the senior citizen community. We have a very large population of that, and so many of our senior citizens are truly struggling. They're on Social Security because they're over that age limit, and they get food stamps, but the check barely covers their utilities, their bills, and the food stamps are less than $100. Where sadly you have other families that receive thousands. Do you have any ideas or plans to help and focus on our senior citizen community? Because I know here in Graceville, we have ones that have to go without medicine, have to go out without heat because they can't afford it.
Yeah, and there's levers I can pull, mean policy levers you can pull at the state level. Grocery prices, not a whole lot you can do about grocery prices. And so I would talk about, if you're homeowners, so that continue to bring their insurance costs down, their auto, their homeowners, bringing down, again, if we have the opportunity to revisit the healthcare, if you bring healthcare fund, then a lot of them are going to be on Medicare, which will, that's a federal program. but also property taxes if they're in a home. What I'd like to see for whether it's age 70 or whatever that is at a point, we have a Save Our Homes at 3% is kind of save our seniors. So that you reach a certain age, there's limitations on whether you can. If I could, I don't think constitutionally I necessarily can, but I would limit it to long-term Florida residents and not somebody who's moving in tomorrow. But once you reach age 70, if your taxes don't disappear, at least they don't go up anymore. You can put it at 0%, and just whatever you were paying at age 70, that's what you pay for the rest of your life while you're in your home. So your burden doesn't keep going up because think about 3% for Save Our Homes. That's 30% over a decade. I bet your Social Security hasn't gone up 30%. And then you got all the inflationary pressures on top of that. So those are some of the things I would do right out of the gate for seniors. Is if we're not going to get, because the governor's kind of set this bar where, I've said I'll offer taxpayers if they want to get rid of homestead property tax. If it doesn't happen in 26, we'll offer it. But again, I think it's going to be the better solution. I think maybe you can get to 60% on is something more enhanced for seniors. That could be an enhanced exemption, like run them up to 100,000 extra exemption when you hit 7. There's different ways to do it, but something that gives them meaningful relief. Because look, I don't like my property taxes, and they've gone up. But I'm working. I'm a working age guy, so I can afford it right now. It obviously funds a lot of important things. When you're retired and you're on fixed income, we really do need to make sure we're making Florida a place that people have wanted to come and live out their golden years. And so I'm committed to make sure we do that. And there's other stuff I want to do from a rural standpoint is making sure we're getting better healthcare access. I think we ought to leverage our universities to set up whether it's mobile units, but make sure we're getting good preventative care. And I've got a health freedom and wellness initiative we rolled out that goes from birth for our kids, make sure they're having healthier meals, partnering with our farmers instead of all the garbage that sometimes they get in schools. The diet's kind of gone down, even since a long time ago when I was in school, but all the way through, making sure that we have healthier access, and that may mean, as I said, some mobile healthcare opportunities from FSU or our university here in Fort. Just kind of get where people are geographically located, make sure they're covered. Anybody else?
I have one more. Another one. School of choice. Yeah. School of choice. School of choice.
Yeah.
It is something our state does. We've dealt with it. What is your opinion on it? Because I know from our standpoint, it has truly hurt our local schools because we have athletes that spend one semester at one school and then transfer to a different county to do their athletics there. We have a lot that do basketball here and baseball there, or vice versa.
Like the portal.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's interesting. I think that should be limited. What we're trying to do on the choice front on athletics is, like say you're in an urban area or you're a homeschool kid, like Tim was a homeschool kid that played in East High School in St. Johns County. So if a homeschool kid are like to participate in high school athletics, which I think is a good thing.
Oh, yeah.
Going from county to county, I don't think is what was ever envisioned, and so you're telling me something I did not know. I was in that legislature for 9 years, so nobody ever brought that to my attention. I would fix that. To me, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's one thing to go if you're in an urban area and go from where you're a homeschool kid and you have no other opportunity than to play that way, or like charter schools that are small to be able to participate in a athletic event. But going from county to county sounds too much like the portal, and I don't like. I mean, it's kind of ruined. It's really college athletics.
That's exactly what
It's like a portal.
That's exactly what I thought.
Yeah, and then it's just like you're 15-year-olds and professional athletes. I don't like that.
And it hurts our schools because where
Yeah.
funding comes in.
Yeah.
If they're here one semester and then in another county the other semester, that county's going to get the FTE dollars, not the school they started at.
Yes.
So it's definitely hurt. I know our local schools.
Yeah, and the choice piece, that's more about the right on athletics than it is like the universal school choice. But I would plug that hole. That's or they got to go for 3 years or whatever. I mean, people have to move around obviously, but not sports.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
In regards to that, that's not a legislative problem. That is a Florida Athletic Association problem.
That's HSAA?
Yeah, that's a total separate.
So they can fix it.
Well, they can fix it. Okay. The only problem is they don't answer to the state. Okay.
So the governor appoints the board.
That's true.
I'm already upset at those guys. They prevented two Christian private schools from doing an opening prayer before their game. Both Christian schools. I mean, nobody was objecting, and had to go to court, spend a bunch of money, and so I've had some conflict there, but so I can tell you, we appoint people that would fix it.
Right. Well, and that's the thing about it. Look to see who you're appointing to those positions and everything. Because right now they answer to themselves. I know that.
That's exactly what they think.
Yeah, that's exactly what they think, and that's exactly what they're doing right now. And then whenever they get to the playoffs and everything, they raise the price, they get all the money. Kids in the school board, kids in the school produce the athletes, and then they also, set up all the stuff, and then they have to pay the umpires and referees and all that stuff, and then they charge them so much for a ticket for everyone that comes in. So I know that to be a fact, okay? And then the other thing, in regards to, you were talking about the homeowners insurance and everything. What is your feeling, homeowners insurance versus sales tax? Okay, sales tax, couldn't that possibly upset
property tax?
Property, yeah.
It could be. Here's my concern on that. So, and I've spent enough time to kind of get an idea of where you can plug the holes. You could do a sales tax, but if you were going to hypothetically eliminate all property taxes, the whole thing, it's massive. It's a massive number.
Right.
You would never sell anything anywhere near I-10 for everybody to go to Georgia to buy, because you'd have like a 14-15% sales tax. So homestead property taxes, you could do like a 2% sales tax. You'd have to do, like, one member has a proposal for a 5% tax essentially on the purchase of a home. So you buy a $100,000 home, it's $5,000. You buy a $1 million home, it's $50,000 one time. That's a lot. That'd be a lot of money. And those two things would support your cops, firefighters, your education. But his plan covers counties and schools. It does not cover cities and special districts. But people are going to say, well, I'm still paying property taxes. So I haven't gotten with him to see what he's running the numbers to get rid of that too. But you're talking about 4 or 5 in here. It would be, I don't know how you do it.
May I interject
Yes,
here? The reason why I say that is because, if you go to Alabama, they have high sales tax, they have state income tax, they have a numerous other, ad valorem taxes and everything. Same thing in Georgia.
Yeah.
Have lived there and everything, and there's not a person here. How many people in here live in Graceville? How many people have been to Dothan, Alabama, and bought something in the last week? They've got 9.5% sales tax. And they got other taxes, and their homeowners taxes, okay, are, I would say, lower than ours right now. And so what I'm saying is, why couldn't we look at this? Because I know one meal equals $400,000, okay, for a county like Holmes County. Now, a place like Walton, a half a meal or so, then we're not talking about $400,000. We're talking about $6 million or something. But if you put it in a sales tax, everybody coming from Alabama and Georgia going through my hometown that's so far backwoods, we still have kerosene television in Bonifay, Florida. They're going to pay that tax to buy whatever they have to do there. And so that's where we would make ours. And I'm just asking you, if you look at that when you're
looking at it. Well, what I've said is, look, I'll offer it. I'm not saying I'm going to go out and campaign, raise money and everything else. But it would have to have replacement tax, and the sales tax would be one of those options. But I'm not going to I would never support an income tax. And that's one of the reasons why our property taxes are a little bit more than some states. Our sales tax is right in the middle. We can go up a penny or two and not be like out of, like Alabama. We'd be more like Alabama. We'd go more closer to 85%. That's an option. It's just you're going to have winners and losers there too. There's going to be counties where they would generate a lot off the sales tax, and that's a good thing. And some that would be worse. They'd be better off with it. So it's very, once you get into this, it's very complicated, which is why I like this rollback. It takes the immediate inspiration that some people have. Everybody gets some relief. Nobody gets a tax increase next year while we figure out what do people want to do. Is there a 60% supermajority to eliminate homestead property taxes? Maybe. And we have to figure that out, but I don't think that the people advocating have been transparent about saying, you're going to have something. If you're going to get rid of 12, 13 billion, whatever it is, you have to have something to replace that. And people are like, wait a minute, what do you mean you're going to add new taxes? And how do you tell a renter, somebody who's renting, or a small business, hey, we're going to increase all of your taxes so that the folks with homestead have to pay no taxes? I just think it's going to be hard to get to 60%.
And the last thing,
To eliminate it, to totally eliminate it.
yeah, last thing I'd like to point out in regards to that is, like Holmes County, we rely on the state 95% of the time.
Yep.
Okay. You go down there where Walton County is, and they got that white gold down there.
Yeah.
And then, they're paying over 75%. So they only get 30% of it because of, we're a small rural county.
Yeah.
And then whenever you also look at the people that are doing it, like for instance, in Holmes County, only 30% in my whole county pays taxes. 30%. So that is incumbent upon 30%. I'm sure it's like that in Jackson County too. So as opposed to people in Walton County, about 80% of them pay. So I know that you're not gonna fix this with one shot.
Right. There's no one size fits all that doesn't really hurt some people, really benefit some people.
But there are things that you can give immediate relief, maybe, reduce the property tax and increase the sales tax over a period of time. I know, as an example, to get a new standard, and we increase the sales tax, 1%. Okay? 1% just for the new state. So,
Right.
but have sales tax on the education thing.
I'm figuring out
Priorities.
priorities. Yeah, right.
Conversation, but you need to eat before your food.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. I really appreciate it.
I'm not gonna say the rest of it.
Yeah.
Photos. Yeah, still warm and tight.
Thank you.
You just said, man.
He'll be-
So you just said it.
He's gotta go in a little while, but maybe we can, eat his food and have some conversation and,
Yeah.
maybe catch him a little bit before he has to
You
go
can fire
on.
away at me. I'll answer between bites and shrimp.